journalist at the Huffington Post, covering Islamophobia. Thanks so much for joining us. What's your reaction to these latest Charlie Hebdo cartoons attacking not just the Turkish president, but Muslims, Muslim women and their values?
I think everything that we've seen so far, what happening within the last few weeks, has been incredibly alarming with international repercussions. Not only is this going to exacerbate the relations between Turkey and France, it's also exacerbating relations between Turkey and heads of states of other Muslim majority countries and beyond. And more importantly, I think this is exacerbating the situation for French Muslims inside the country. Of course, the boycotts have taken an international spin, and frankly, everyone is speaking about what's happening. But I think we need to think about the domestic consequences that this is having on French Muslims who continue to deal with the cycle of this battle between free speech and an attack on a religious faith group.
Yeah, I mean, how do you balance that?
You know, it's very tricky to say. There's absolutely no straight answer, but in order to understand the situation as a whole, I think it's incredibly important to understand the context in which French Muslims exist in France. You know, they're the largest minority. There are millions of French Muslims inside the country, many of whom are saying this is not happening in a box, that this is just another attack on the French minority, especially when after Macron's recent comments when he talked about creating a French Islam. And even though he insists, and those in his government insist, that this is a case for the freedom of speech and for secularism, many people would disagree. I think this is beyond just this particular cartoon. We've seen the consequences of such actions less than 2 weeks ago. 2 Muslim women were stabbed outside of the Eiffel Tower. We've seen a series of raids happening at Islamic organizations, one that fought Islamophobia, another one being a humanitarian organization. And so I think French Muslims are saying we're not talking about free speech. We are talking about what are some coveted attacks that are targeting the largest minority group inside the country.
I mean, you write a lot about Islamophobia. I mean, how do you tackle it? What more could or should be being done?
I think it's incredibly important to understand what the French Muslims are saying. Oftentimes, it seems like the government is speaking at them and not to them and over them. When we are talking about Islamophobia, we have to understand that the dangers of it have rippling effects. It's not just about the horrible stabbings that have happened to Muslims. It is also not just about, we are addressing the fact that France is dealing with, incidents of terrorism, but this is about French Muslims demanding that they be treated as full equal citizens. Oftentimes, these type of languages, when we're talking about institutional Islamophobia, it is the structural framework and the policies and legislations put in place that seems to be targeting them more than any other group. There's also the relationship, the colonization, in the French colonies and in parts of Africa and in other Arab countries that, the French government has yet to fully contend with, and those rippling effects. And so I think there needs to be an honest and open dialogue in terms of what does it mean to be truly inclusive. That's not about reforming a 1400-year-old practice, but talking about how French Muslims feel in a country. We know that some speech is criminalized in the country, like Holocaust denial, for example. So where are we picking and choosing what is free speech, what is not free speech? How are French Muslims living? How are they integrating in society? How are they being attacked by certain rules and policies and police in the locations that they live in, the ghettoized urban areas? And so when we're talking about inclusivity and dialogue and truly having freedom of speech and freedom of religion and expression in a French society, I think it needs to take a hard look as to if and how Muslims fit in that conversation as well.
Oh, it's been so good to speak with you, Rowaida Abdelaziz. Thanks so much for your insight. It's been great to have you on the program. Thank you.